Welcome to CAF Warbird Tube, where history takes flight each week. I'm your host, Steve Buss, and tonight our guest is a true dual threat, country music legend and lifelong aviator, Mr. Aaron Tippin. We're going to talk to him about his aviation background and maybe a little bit about music too. But of course, you know him as a chart-topping country artist. Some of his hits, you know these, right? You got to stand for something, or you fall for anything, or where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. Well, beyond that, he is also a very passionate aviator and has been for almost his entire life. He's also just released a new single, American Sky, written by his son, Tom, and it's also rooted in his love of flight. And we'll talk about that along with his career and his aviation passion. It's all coming up tonight on CAF Warbird Tube. But first, if you're joining us for the very first time, welcome to Warbird Tube. And for our returning fans, welcome back. If you could do us a favor, if you enjoy the episode, please share it with someone you think would enjoy it as well. We appreciate any support you can give us. And speaking of support, Warbird Tube is brought to you by the Commemorative Air Force. To learn more about the CAF, our aircraft, many of which will be heading out on tour in just a few weeks, lots of events, a local unit, or how you can be involved in all the fun. Just visit us at any time at commemorativeairforce.org. Now, I have a list of questions already in my mind for Aaron, and I'm pretty sure we could probably go on for about 2 hours talking about airplanes, but we want you to jump into the conversation as well. If you have a question, you hear us talk about something, you say, well, wait, I'd like to know more about that. Just drop your question in the chat box and we'll do our best to answer either during the show or before we sign off. So with that, let's bring in the one and only Aaron Tippin. And Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve, how you doing? What's up?
I'm doing well. It's good to have you here. And as I mentioned, you've had a lifelong passion for aviation, but take us back to the beginning. What was the spark that interested you in airplanes?
I guess the thing that really turned me on to airplanes, not guess, I mean, I know what turned me on to airplanes. My dad was a captain on a DC-3, C-47 in its day in combat. But anyway, he was a captain on DC-3. It was a maintenance hop, and he decided he'd take his 4-year-old boy to the airport with him and let him ride on that big old airplane. He set me up at the controls with maintenance manuals and log books and anything they could stick under my little fanny so I could see over the instrument panel and put my hands on the controls of that airplane. And from that day forward, I was hooked.
You soloed at age 16. What do you remember about that? It seems that any pilot you talk to has a pretty good memory of that first solo.
Well, first of all, it was great, but man, I'd had a job at the airport since I was 14 years old as a line boy. Yeah. As a rat ramp. And that's all I did was live and breathe airplanes. And so I would take my check from being a line boy and I'd take it back to flight school and say, let me know when I'm out of money, okay? And I'll try to find some more, because all I wanted to do was fly. And it was glorious that my dad at that time was president of an FBO. And so I grew up, and he had several flight instructors working. So if somebody had an open hour, he would say, take your hand up, y'all work with him a little bit there. And so I had 7 or 8 flight instructors before I soloed, but nothing would suit my dad but for him to solo me. So my dad soloed me on my 16th birthday. And I often get asked, just like you did, what was that significant moment? I'll never forget it. We went out and we shot a landing, and Dad said, well, it looks like you got it there. And he said, take me to the ramp. So I hauled him around to the ramp, and he got up out of the seat, and he looked down at me and he said, okay, give me 3 landings there. And he closed the door in that old Cherokee, and I saw that latch at the top close. And I said, thank God he's gone. My dad trained Air Force cadets. He was not a friendly flight instructor. He treated you like a cadet, or he did me. Now, he was a little more friendly to the paying customers. But old Aaron got the wrath of the old flight instructor, old Air Force flight instructor, every time we got an airplane together.
So you said it was a Cherokee? Which model Cherokee?
140. Oh, but let me say this on top of that. it did not suit him that I had soloed a nose wheel airplane. He kind of said that was embarrassing. And so he went out and bought a brand new Citabria. And I cut my teeth and became a tailwheel pilot on a Citabria and got my basic aerobatic training in a Citabria.
All right. Well, and speaking of aircraft that you've flown everything from like the Citabria you're talking about, the J3 Cub, all the way up to Fifi. What's in your hangar these days?
Right now, that's in flying order. Of course, I probably got 7 or 8 basket cases that I'm going to put together if I live long enough. But we got the old Stearman, which I love. Came from a friend of mine that passed away, and I'm love having that airplane in my family. And it's almost Stearman time here in Tennessee, so it won't be long. A couple of weeks, we're going to have that baby out, and we're going to be flying her. We got the old T6. You know, the T6 is kind of the queen of the hangar, just because, you know, as many P-51 pilots have told me, they wish they would have flown the P-51 first and then the T6. And I totally agree with that, because that airplane is an unforgiving mistress. If you take your mind off her, she's going to teach you something.
And of course, this is your wife, Thea.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
My boss, my owner, Miss Thea Tippin, and there she is. And there you go, Greek freak. Well, you know, she's Greek, for those who don't know she's Greek. And of course, I'm her freak. So there she is, riding the wine bottle. And that she's in her Daisy Duke outfit there. And there we are with one of the wine bottles that we had contracted, because we enjoy wine. That's kind of one of our passions. And so she we put that on the T6 just to let her know she's a big part of our flying world.
Does she fly with you a lot?
Oh, quite a bit. And she's a great co-pilot. Now, she has not learned to fly. We did some very primary flight training, and enough so she could get the airplane on the ground. But she just, we haven't gone past that yet. And now we really don't have a good flight trainer, because my Cub's up in the attic and we're still working on that. And I got a Ronica K that I hadn't got out of the trailer yet to put back together. So she could be flying on that. But anyway, we're going to get her a certificate before I kick the bucket.
Here you go. Well, we're looking at the ramp here. Is that a Citabria behind the Stearman?
That is the Stearman, and that's my decathlon.
Oh, decathlon. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do much aerobatics these days?
Decathlon for quite a while. You know, everybody in the Tippin family flies. Everybody from my granddaughter to both my daughter-in-laws. You know, one of them, her dad, Harold Cannon, which was president of the Warbirds for a while. He at EAA, he raised her to fly, and she's a great airplane pilot. Sarah, my other daughter-in-law, Ted's wife, Ted is A&P AI mechanic, and working hard to be a Warbird mechanic. He works on our birds, and several other guys have given the opportunity to work on their airplanes. But his wife, Sarah, she is quite an accomplished pilot. That decathlon sitting back there because she probably just got out of it. She was really into aerobatics before she started making babies. And man, she is a great stick. I mean, a great stick.
That's awesome. With that, you know, you've got this stable of airplanes. You're talking about restoring some. Is that what pushed you to not only have a pilot certificate, but also to pursue your A&P?
I'll tell you exactly why I got my A&P. Flying was all I had in mind. You know, I was trained to be a pilot. That's what my dad trained me to be, was a pilot. As time went on, I went from being ramp rat, line boy, to what's next. Well, I didn't make it yet to the chance of being a flight instructor. I was barely getting into my commercial and my multi-engine, so I hadn't got a flight instructor. And Dad said, well, why don't you go to work for Uncle Billy in the shop? And so I did. I went to work as an apprentice in our shop, and you know, I've gained enough love of that to be is equal to my piloting, because man, I loved it so much. And my Uncle Billy let me be the test pilot for the shop, and he did not believe in turning over an airplane to a customer till it had been flown by one of us, to make sure whatever we said we fixed on it was surely fixed. We didn't want to hand back any bad airplanes. So it was my job to go out and fly them. An opportunity to build time, obviously, because I didn't have my flight instructor's rating at that time. But Uncle Billy worked hard for all of us Tippin kids that were working in the shop at that time. He worked hard to try to get us ready to be A&P mechanics. Well, my dad went back to Alaska to fly the Bush, because they all three, my dad and his two twin brothers, flew the Bush when it was still a territory to the United States. It was not even a state. So they were up there flying in Alaska. But he let me do that, which I was happy to do, but it gave me the opportunity to learn mechanics, and I fell in love with that too. I just soon work on airplanes. I had fly it. And Teddy took that side of it, kind of.
That's great. And you did eventually get your CFI. When did you get that instructor's rating? What year was that?
Well, the instructor's rating actually came after the A&P certificate.
Right.
I did that I did my A&P certificate, even though I had all this practical time for so many years. I'd never applied it. And none of us young Tippins went on to follow Uncle Billy's steps of being a mechanic. So I decided I was going to do it. And so I did. I went to the King School up here in Nashville and studied to get my A&P. And so I did succeed. And that was really cool. The only reason I became a flight instructor was because my dad soloed me on my 16th birthday. And I was bound and determined to solo my boys on their 16th birthday. And that was Teddy. Teddy was the oldest. And on his 16th birthday, he soloed a Cub, which was pretty cool and very nostalgic to solo that Cub.
Oh, yeah.
Real proud. And just a cool event was that day. I remember it was spitting snow, and we were sitting out there listening to weather. Every time the ceiling would get up enough for VFR, man, I'd be ready to send him around the patch. And finally it came up, and I went, okay, this is it. Let's go. And so we got him out there, got the airplane cranked up, got him down at the end of the runway, laid the whip to it. Man, he went around the patch. He made a really great landing. And I'm standing there to turn off to flag him around to go again. And he no more touched down. And I waved him on to go get another one, go do another one. And he was rolling down the taxiway to the end of the runway. And all of a sudden it started snowing again. And I went, oh, no. And I just picked the radio up to say, bring it to the hangar, buddy. We're going to have to wait. And all of a sudden, at the far end of the runway, a beam of light broke through the sky. And I thought, that's a sign from my dad. That's a sign from my dad. And I said, go. And he went. As soon as I said go, the snow stopped. The sky broke clear. He went around. He did 2 more landings. Thank you, Jesus, for letting old Dad step in for a moment and fix the weather. So it was a glorious moment. Glorious.
Very good. And then a few years later, Tom solos.
Oh, but hey, let me tell you, at the end of Teddy soloing, and we're celebrating in the hangar, and I said, well, Tom, you're next. And Tom said, yeah, that's right. But I'm not just going to solo the Cub. I'm going to solo the Cub, the Stearman, and the T6. And he did it. That was another glorious day for old Aaron. Man, I'll never forget. He had already soloed the Cub. He'd already soloed the Stearman. He was getting ready to solo the T6. And it was so cold that morning, December 1st, that we were having to put a heater on the engine before we'd ever open the doors of the hangar to pull it out, because you need to crank it right then. We pulled the T6 out. I jumped up on the wing and I said, okay, buddy, you ready to go? You want me to go around with you one time and maybe just check it out? And he said, No, I think I got it, Dad. I said, oh, okay. I said, what, anything else you need me to do? And he said, yes, sir. I wish you'd get off this wing so I can crank this airplane and go fly. And he did. And man, I'm so proud of those two young men, man. They both accomplished great things. But those solo days were special for old Dad.
I'll bet. So I'm not a flight instructor, but I know quite a few of them. And I know there's some trepidation when you send a student off to solo the first time, even though you know they're ready and they're going to be just fine. But there's a little, worry in the back of your mind. But
always,
yeah. But what was it like having the flight instructor worry and the dad worry at the same time? What was going on in your head?
I didn't have to worry about the dad worry because Thea was worrying enough for all five of us. Mama boy was Tom soloed a glider at 14. So this flying thing was not brand new to him. And, but I got to say, I had total confidence in those guys, man. God forbid, if I'd have dropped dead right there, wouldn't have been a question. They'd have got the airplane back on the ground and been over there pumping on my chest, trying to bring me back to life, because they're both very competent pilots. They both have the gift of their grandfather. Old Dad had to work to be a pilot and work hard at it. But man, their grandpa, my dad could get in an airplane, zip it up, and fly it away like he was born in it. He was an amazing aviator.
So you're on this course. You're looking toward, you're getting your commercial certificate. You're building hours in the shop. Aviation looks like it's going to be your career path. What happens that takes you off the runway and into Nashville?
Well, it was something nobody forecasted or thought of. But here I was 22 years old. I had well enough time to take my written exam for the flight engineer for the 727, because that's what you had to do to qualify to put in applications at the airlines. But I was only 22, and you need to be 23. And along about that time came the energy crunch of the late 70s. And I guess I'd had so much fun in aviation that the corporate pilot job just didn't appeal to me much. I was doing it, but I just wasn't that happy about it. I love the unique things about aviation and flying. And lo and behold, this came along, and I just realized I had no college education. I had the flight time. And at that time, they were predicting a big boom of hiring in the 80s. So I pretty much was going to be a shoe-in on my flight time and my flight experience. But, I realized that wasn't going to happen, man. They were furloughing pilots and from the majors. And I went, okay, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. And that's where the music thing walked in. I'd been, weekend picker and grinner, playing banjo. I learned to play banjo in high school and play bluegrass music because I'm from the Appalachians, and we bluegrass is our music. And so I just went back home to the boys in the band. I said, "Hey man," I said, "I quit flying. So what do you say we start playing music in the clubs?" And they said, "Nobody's going to pay us to play bluegrass." And in those days they wouldn't. And so we started playing country music, and that's how I got to the first steps of this. And I kind of thought in my head I was leaving aviation behind, but later it crept up again.
It always comes back.
It always comes back.
So you said your first memorable flight experience was when you were 4. When did you start? I mean, you mentioned that playing the banjo in high school, but were you sort of had a musical bend about the same time?
I'd sang in the church choir as a kid, but I didn't know I was much of a singer. I mean, I've been singing in the group, so didn't know what kind of singer I was. Yeah. But at that time, we didn't have that many singers in the band, maybe 1 or 2. And, in those days, we'd have to do 2 and 3 hours. So that's a long time. And so I just started, picking out songs that I really liked and started singing them. And one of the guys in the band said, "Golly, Aaron, you're a pretty good singer, man. We're going to kind of make you the lead singer here." Well, that led to that. And then when we started doing country music, I was kind of the lead singer on most of that stuff. So that's kind of how it started. And it just led from one thing to another.
When did you make the jump to Nashville?
Well, playing those honky tonks locally. I mean, when I quit flying, I quit. I went home and went to work for a guy running his bulldozer and running a dump truck and just doing local excavation work around the community in the upstate of South Carolina. And, I planned to do that forever. And along came a divorce and playing honky tonks at night and along came the divorce and I just kind of had no excuse because a lot of people said, "Aaron, you ought to go to Nashville. You should go to Nashville." And so, I'd always go, "I can't. I'm married. I got a kid. I got a family. I can't do that." So anyway, that kind of moved to the right a little bit or out of the picture a little bit. And so I said, "Well, I don't have much of an excuse not to go try it." And so I went to Nashville. At that time, I think I was welding for a living. A boss, I never forget it because the boss came in. He said, "All right, boys, we got to tighten it up around here." We were working in a textile mill, and I was welding up stainless steel containers that dried and they mostly dried these pantyhose. That's what they did. And it was a big mill. And so I was a little bitty skinny guy. So they could shove me down these tubes and I could do the welding on the inside because any of the detail of the weld on there would tear that hosiery. So you couldn't have it. It had to be a very smooth weld. But anyway, so boss comes in on Monday morning for the safety meeting. The safety meeting was a chew your ass meeting. And so he was giving us this time he didn't give us our butt chewing. He said, "Hey, boys, we got to tighten it up around here." He said, "Man, we're running, the job's about to run out." And he said, "People's going to get laid off." And that meant for us to step it up a notch. And I raised my hand. He said, "What do you want, hippie?" Because back at that time, I had hair in the middle of my back and I was scooter trash and living the life of a honky tonk hillbilly. And I said, You gonna lay somebody off?" He said, "That's right. If you don't get with it, you're gonna get laid off." I said, "How about me first?" And that was my decision to come to Nashville. And he said, You want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "I think I want to go to Nashville." They all knew I had aspiration to go to Nashville. He said, "Okay, man, come on back here." And man, he wrote me out a pink slip and just said, "There you go, Tippin. Good luck." And that day, all my fitters and my other welding buddies pitched in and gave me the money for gas to drive to Nashville.
So you arrive in Nashville, and how did you get established as an artist and not in someone who is going to be able to pick some good songs and get a record deal?
Well, that's a long road. That's about 5 or 6 years long. First of all, when I came to Nashville, I had no job, had no way of making a living. I'm nobody in this town. I took a job in Kentucky at an aluminum rolling mill. These are the guys. It's an aluminum rolling mill. Did aluminum work, and to make a long story short, down to the point of making Coors beer cans. And so I was kind of responsible for getting it down to that level. And I was a mill mechanic, and that's where it started out. So I would work all night long in the aluminum rolling mill. And then in the morning, I'd go home and take a shower, get back in my car, drive to Nashville. I would write songs because I had made an establishment a few years earlier with, folks in the business, and they knew people that wrote songs and stuff. And so, I was a writer, but just not a great one at the time and didn't understand fully the craft of songwriting. But anyway, I came on to Nashville and did the writing stuff. I'd stay down there 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, go home. I'd pack my lunch lay down, take a nap from 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 10 at night. Get up 10 at night, jump in the car, run out to the mill, work all night long. I did that for 2 solid years.
Wow.
And then I got a staff writer's job at CAF Rose, which is the same publishing company as Hank Williams Sr.
Yeah.
One of my friends, a publisher friend, had gotten the writer's relationship job at CAF Rose, and he thought I might make a good songwriter someday. So he talked him into giving me a draw, which was $100 a week. I made $100 a week. That was my living. I went from a welding job of making $500 a week in that day to making $100 a week as a songwriter, and subsidizing that with selling vitamins, because I was into weightlifting, bodybuilding, and all that stuff in the old days. I'm just an old man trying to hang on now, but I did all of that. I did vitamin sales. I would do tune-ups and tire changes and washing cars in the parking lot of the publishing company just to make ends meet. And it was glorious. And everybody, they were so kind to me to give me the chance to work on their cars or to do a tire change for them or anything. So everybody was out to help the underdog, and they helped OAA.
What year was that?
Oh, shoot. 80, 84, 85, something like that.
I had you beat. I was working at a country music radio station in that time, and I was making $200 a week.
You were loaded, dude. I wish you'd have been my friend.
That is something. When you are writing songs, is that the background? Doing the bulldozer work, working in the mill, that kind of thing. Is that sort of what shaped you? Because you're very well known as writing songs for the blue collar. The blue collar community. Is that kind of where that came from, or is it just something that you just sort of felt comfortable in that sort of genre?
It all stems back from being a farm kid. I mean, when you're a farm kid, you learn some stuff. Man, you learn how to run heavy machinery. You learn how to watch out for yourself, because being a farm kid, you can end up dead quick.
Yeah.
And so I learned that. I learned how to weld. My dad, we'd break stuff, and we'd have to haul our stuff down to the local welding shop. And finally, one day I came in from school, and he said, "Oh, by the way, next Wednesday, you got to be at Ray Fowler's welding shop. He's going to teach you how to weld." And he bought me a little buzz box, Lincoln tombstone, and I learned to weld. And so that we could, we didn't have to, I mean, it's just too time consuming to run all the way down to the welding shop and get something welded up. When it's just broken, I could do it, no problem. But anyway, so welding became one of those things in my life that fed me when nothing else would.
Yeah. When you hit the big time, 1991, your first hit song makes it. What was it like to hear that song for the first time on the radio?
I can't even remember it, Steve. I can't even remember it. I'll tell you why. It was such a whirlwind. That song was released, and it was moving up the charts, doing fine. And I guess I got to tell this kind of backwards. There was a lady driving out in Los Angeles, headed to her office, and she heard the song for the first time on the radio station in L.A., country radio station. And so she really liked that song. So she went to the office, called the radio station, said, "Hey, man, I just heard this song, and this guy singing it, and I really like the song, and I want to know who's singing it, because I was wondering if he might want to go entertain the troops with my father, who was Bob Hope." This was Linda Hope. She was listening to country radio one day when my first single came out, and at this time the war was cranking up in the Persian Gulf, and a Desert Storm, and she heard the song, and she thought, this would be a good song to take to the troops. and her dad's getting ready to do his Christmas tour over there. And so the radio station says, we don't know. You'll have to ask his management or ask his record label. So she calls the record label. They said, we don't know. You'll have to ask his managers. So call my manager. And then I get a call from my manager saying, hey, man, would you be interested in going to the Middle East with Bob Hope and entertain our troops? And I went, is this a joke?
Yep.
I mean, I could have bought my way on that show. And here I am. I'm about to be on the Bob Hope show. I said, of course I'll do it. Of course I'll do it. And so anyway, that's where it started. And you talking about a hillbilly in distress. Man, they put me on an airplane next morning. I went to L.A., landed at Burbank, and I get off the airplane. The first time I ever saw somebody holding my name up at the bottom of the stairs next to a carousel. And it says, Mr. Tippin. I thought, I don't see my dad here anywhere. Anyway, I said, I'm Mr. Tippin. And he said, come with me, sir. And he went and got my luggage. You know, this was one of those car service deals, man. I've never seen anything like this. And we got in the car. They took me to some medical facility, and they shot me up like a pincushion with every, I guess, vaccination you could get. And then they sent me to the hotel to take a nap, because at 4:00 in the morning, I was going out to meet Bob Hope and get on a C-141 and go to Saudi Arabia. That's how fast that happened. And I didn't have a passport, visa, nothing. I had nothing. But when Bob Hope wants to get something done, things got done.
That is an amazing story. And I can't even, I'm sure I would have had the same sort of reaction you did. You're kidding, right? Hey, we've got one of our viewers dropped into the chat here. It's Dan, and he's from East Tennessee. He's a former New York City country radio DJ, now living the dream on his own airstrip with a J3 Cub and a Waco QCF2. All right. Wow. Yeah. And like you, Aaron, he's working on an Aranca K, and he's working on one as well.
Good. I need a strut, so I hope he can help me.
Yeah, there you go. But he does have a question. He says, for the benefit of the young pilots or students in the viewing audience tonight, in spite of your dad teaching you, which is an awesome story, by the way, what was the most challenging part of getting your pilot certificate?
Passing the written exam.
I hear you.
Flying the airplane always came very natural to me. I had just had a mechanical understanding of the machine. But to remember everything that I was going to have to know to pass that test, I did pass my private first time. My instrument, no. My commercial, yes. But that was the toughest thing for me. That was the toughest thing. I didn't want to study that because I thought it had less worth than my ability to control an airplane, which I was very wrong, because there's so many things outside of controlling an airplane that are so important, and you've got to know it all, and that's all there is to it. That is all. So, I was young, and I thought just me being a great pilot, a great seat of the pants pilot, made me worth more. It doesn't. It probably save your life, but also other things can save your life is knowing what kind of airspace you're flying into, and making sure that's all in your head. And that it's very valuable on both ends. And as I got up in age, I took more credit in making super high scores in my A&P and my instructor's certificate than in the written than I had been ever before, just because I realized I had neglected something that was very important.
Yeah. You have a brand new single out. It is called American Sky. And this song is got many different aspects to it. Well, first of all, it's obviously rooted in flying, which is good. But your son, Tom, wrote the song. He sings along with you and Thea. They're singing harmonies on it. When Tom wrote the song, was it something that he brought to you first, or was it a surprise? Did you help him write it? How did that whole process happen?
Yeah, I'll tell you how this happened. He was confronted by a couple of guys at Sun and Fun one year because they knew he was into music, and they were going to do a television show. And he said, "Hey, Tom, why don't you?" They ended up at the campground. You know how us Tippins are. We'll pull out a guitar if you don't watch us. And so we were singing, and he was singing, and these guys just fell in love with his singing and his songwriting. And they said, "Tom, would you be willing to write us a theme song for our program we're working on?" Well, he did, and unfortunately, it didn't pan out to anything that happened. But that song laid in catalog, and I told Tom, I said, "Tom, it's the best thing you've ever wrote." I said, "So many elements are in this. It's like three themes in this song. First of all, there's the aviation theme that was easy for him to write because he's lived it, and it's the Tippin lifestyle. But not just that, it's the patriotic side of it he found and put into this. Also, it's about the flight of the American dream. And that's what makes this song so cool." And I told him, I said, "Dude, you have written everything into this song, and it's so delivered, and you immediately understand what he's saying. There's no riddles to this song. This is just great songwriting, and you can see the picture when this song rolls by."
When you sang it, when you were in the studio with it, what were the thoughts going through your head? What does this mean to you, I guess, on a very personal level? Because it does combine all those different elements of your life.
Well, let's talk about that first. How it got to that point to even be in the studio came kind of crazy. This song's laying in his catalog. We have nothing to do with it. I didn't write it. He didn't write it. He wrote it. So I'm very thankful to be inducted into the Living Legends of Aviation a couple of months ago, and we were talking about it, getting ready to go out there and do this. And they always want us to sing a song. They want the Tippins to sing a song, and so we were talking about what we're going to sing and blah blah blah. And so her and I were getting ready one morning, and I said, "You know what, honey? We're doing this Living Legends thing. I just was thinking," she said, "You better not say American Sky." And I said, "That's exactly what I'm thinking." And so we immediately, walked out and picked up the phone to our producer and said, "Hey, man, we're going to send you a song right now. If you have time, please listen to it and respond right back." And so we sent him American Sky, and he immediately texted back and said, "This is an anthem." He said, "This is cool. We got to cut it." We went down to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, in the old studios where all the great hits of the rockers of the Southern rock stuff, and cut this song. And man, I'm telling you what, it was such an honor to be cutting a song that Tom wrote, but on top of that, such a great song.
Indeed. And this was the first time that you were at the Nut House in Muscle Shoals, right? Was your first time there at that studio?
First time I've ever done it. I've been in the music business forever, over 30 years, and I'd never had the chance to go to Muscle Shoals. That was really cool. And you know what? I believe I just as soon cut the rest of my records that I'm going to do while I'm alive right down there. There's a spirit there. There is a spirit there. And man, you listen to that song, it's on it too, man. It's slapped a big old coat of that on it. I tell you right, man.
Will there be additional songs that we're going to hear from you in the coming weeks and months?
Absolutely. There's already an album in the can, and but we're so excited about this song. It's being associated with the 250th year of the anniversary of the United States of America. As a matter of fact, tomorrow morning, Thea and I go up to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and we do a press conference for a big concert to be held there. And this song will be one of the featured songs in my show. And I'm really cool. I get to front the Charlie Daniels Legend show, which is a hologram of Charlie Daniels, who is one of my heroes, and entertain our troops. Mm-hmm. The guy that stands out more than anybody in the history of entertainers, other than Bob Hope, would be Charlie Daniels. He never said no. Right. He never said no. I mean, if he would get on a helicopter and fly as far outside the wire as you were willing to take him. He was a man's man. He was all about our troops, and I have tried to follow his lead.
I think you've found some very good footsteps to follow. I was fortunate enough to interview Charlie Daniels several years ago in a different lifetime, and I agree. He was a very passionate individual and very, very supportive of our troops, and you could just tell the way he talked about the stories of entertaining. And I'm sure you have stories like that too. I mean, when you're on tour. We'll talk about Roots and Boots later, and you're out with your full band. There, I'm sure, and I'm guessing, I guess, there's a feeling you get when you're performing for a regular crowd at a theater somewhere. What's different when you're overseas at a military installation, forward operating area? What changes in that atmosphere?
There's an old saying, must be present to win. If you're willing to take the chance to go down range and entertain our troops, they have the same love for you. And they go, yeah, man, if you'll come out here, man, I've met kids that had never listened to country music and never heard of it. They were, they were rap guys or pop guys. They didn't even know or could care less about country music. But you show up, must be present to win. So guess what? I did. Because all those kids, man, they come out and they go, wow, that was cool, man. I love that song you did about working people, man. My dad, he works his tail off back in New York. And, man, I love that song. I'm gonna look that up. So it's the Mutual Admiration Society, where the troops are happy you had guts enough to come see them. And I'm happy that I get to see them, to see our greatest citizens, and a lot of them just Guard guys, National Guard guys, out there doing this job so gracefully, so miraculously, so merciful. What great warriors we have! There is no other warriors on the planet like ours. Man, we're about, if it comes to war. They're after war. They're not after hurting citizens. They do everything they can in their power to make sure they focus on who they're after. And I know that and understand it because I've had them tell me that. And they many times took great risk to not allow a citizen to be hurt, mm-hmm. and oftentimes got themselves hurt.
We do live in a very, very talented country, and our military is, as you say, top
you said notch. It just right, Steve. Talented. They are talented in being great warriors and great protectors. And I've never, you know what? I'm gonna remember that because they are. They're very talented in what they do. And buddy, it is by the grace of God we have them in our defense.
Well, with the support of the military, you also. A number of years ago, joined up with the Commemorative Air Force to do a little something that was called Red, White, and Loud, and kind of honor veterans. It was a great combination of vintage warbirds and great Aaron Tippin music. But how did that all come together?
Well, I got to credit two guys. Doug Rosenthal introduced me. He said, there's a guy you need to meet here. And Steve Brown at that time was the CEO of the Commemorative Air Force. And so put us together. And, Steve's an old entertainer too. So, we and him got together, put our heads together, and we decided we thought we could make something pretty cool out of this, is putting old warbirds into an Aaron Tippin show. And it worked out great, man. We did this in a lot of airports, which Aaron Tippin, what place would I rather be than an airport doing a show? So it really worked out great. Great time working with Steve in those days. And credit to Rosie. Everybody knows Rosie just recently got in the Hall of Fame, and well overdue, because that dude, he's a flying machine. And I'll thank him for the opportunity to kind of get the ball rolling and get us two together that made the Red, White, and Loud tour that turned out to be really great and a lot of fun. So much fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get to play on the wings of airplanes. Not everybody can do that.
Oh, and it was so cool. And just for folks that didn't have a chance to see it, at the end and the grand finale was we had secretly hidden the Stars and Stripes guitar out on the end of the wing of a B-29. So the boys would have to play a long riff by the time I walked out there, got the guitar, pulled it out of the case, and started back to start singing the song. Excuse me. And boy, it was great fun. We did it on the top of a B-24, B-29, B-25.
25, yeah.
Yeah, we've done it with two fighters on both sides of us of the stage. We did it every way we could think of doing it.
Quite a unique tour. And one of the things that I know you did in these concerts, and you're talking about bringing it back, was build a bike while singing a song, which and then giving it to the Marine Corps to give to a deserving child. Where did the idea for that come from?
Years ago, first of my career, it was kind of a promotion deal where we were trying to drum up toys for tots. So one radio station said, "Hey man, bring up some of your entertainers, and we'll do a deal where people get a free autograph if they bring a toy for an underprivileged kid." And so we did it. And I went up there and I just saw the outpour of people to help underprivileged children with Christmas. And I thought, that's so cool, man. I want to help with that. I want to be a part of that. And it was a Toys for Tots thing. And so anyway, we came back and I said, "Hey, look, guys, we're just going to put a 5-gallon bucket down front, and we're going to play a song. And if you got a donation, blah, blah, blah." And at the end of the day, we'd mail it off to Toys for Tots. And finally, one night we're riding out from a show, and my guitar player, Kevin Gallion, says, "Hey, Aaron," he said, "you think you can work on everything, fix everything? Why don't you build a toy on stage?" And I said, "Well, okay, but what?" He said, "I don't know." And so we thought around, all the guys in the band, and we came up with a bicycle because, that's a boy and girl thing. Mm-hmm. And so we started building this bike on stage. It was really cool because then it came from building a bike on stage to inviting a Marine out to accept the bike for Toys for Tots, which was a lot of awareness for the Toys for Tots. And I'm just so proud of that. Man, it's really cool.
I did find the picture of you on the wing of the. It looks like you're on the wing of the 24 with that guitar.
Oh yeah, that was the grand finale, man. Was having that out on the B-29. That's too cool. Yeah. Oh, the B-24. I can't remember which one.
24. Yep.
Yeah.
That
was in Colorado.
Okay. Was that in Rifle, Colorado? Is that where that was? I think.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Jason's watching tonight too, and he's wondering if you've ever flown in a P-51 Mustang. I know you've flown a P-40 Warhawk, but Mustang?
Well, I have flown in a Mustang. Thanks once again to Rosie, Doug Rosenthal. But I am also I have a type certificate rating in a P-40. So, and I got to say, P-51's a cool airplane, but I just love the old P-40. Man, it's just such a cool airplane. I just love it. It flies so easy. Golly, it lands a little funky because the gear's kind of tight, like it is on a Stearman, but as far as flying the airplane, man, it's really cool. And as I've always been told, below 10,000 feet, a P-51 doesn't want a P-40 on its ass because that's going to be
Recently, you performed at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. How does a youngster from Tennessee end up in New Orleans?
New Orleans. Hey, that was a blessing, man. We have a great friend that's the Attorney General of Montana, where Thea is from, by the way. She's from Montana. And they were having a convention down there. He said, Aaron, I'd love for you to come down and do a few songs. And so we did. I had no idea they were going to put us in the big convention room underneath a B-17, a TBM, a P-51. I was blown away. Matter of fact, I don't even know who was there because I never looked down at the audience one time. I was looking up at airplanes all night long.
Quite a show. And quite a unique place to play, that's for sure.
It was really cool.
Is it true that Thea helped inspire the song "Kiss This"?
I don't know what you're talking about. Well, maybe I should have her come tell the story. But we were, I'd come in off the road, and she was whipping up a little something to eat, and I'd be in the backseat cook. I am, because I love to cook, and I think I'm pretty good at smoking meat because I learned it the Texas way, and that's it, man. The Texas way is the way you smoke meat. But anyway, we came in. She was whipping up something. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, I went, honey, what are you doing? Don't just throw a dash in that. It says a quarter cup. I went, ooh, I've really struck a nerve here. So I said, whoa, wait. I don't want to fight, honey. Been gone half a week. I just want to come home, have fun, love you. What do you say we start over? What do you say we kiss and make up? And she said, at that time, Ted and Tom were little bitty tykes. And even though she's from Montana with a very versed cussing vocabulary, she didn't want to say something in front of the boys. So she looked at me with that look and said, did you say kiss? I'll tell you what you can do. You can kiss this, and pointed in the appropriate place. Oh, but it didn't stop there. She went, sounds like a song title. And she went and wrote it down. And lo and behold, we wrote one of my biggest hits like 2 or 3 weeks later with another buddy of ours called Kiss This. And the other writer was Philip Douglas.
Yeah. #1 country song.
Yeah.
And speaking of country, I mean, your career has gone a number of decades. You've seen lots of things change. What's your assessment of country music these days? How have things changed since you first broke in 1991?
These are very interesting days of country music, as they were in the 90s, very interesting days of country music. There was a lull there where, and it was more of a pop country. And I don't put these guys down. They were having their day, and everybody deserves their day. And but it was very different from what we did in the 90s. And it strolled along until I think the public realized they didn't get the chance to say goodbye to us 90s guys, because a country radio just kind of went, that's it. No more of that. We're doing the new stuff. And so we didn't get set out to pasture like it had been done for the past 75 years. We just kind of got caught in purgatory. And it rolled along until the public finally went, what happened to those guys in the 90s? And that's when it started. And then all of a sudden, booking agents and promoters started going, hey, man, I want to book Aaron Tippin for a show. And I want to do this with the Colin Ray. And I want to do a show with Sammy Kershaw. And all of that just, it just kept compounded. And now, they used to just have us on classic country radio. And now it really gets mixed up even in major stream radio, the mainstream radio. And so I think this is a new, unique time when, once again, country music is changing its face, or it's reminiscent of history. And what will that make country music now. And I think that's wonderful. I think it's wonderful because the new kids that are listening to what they've enjoyed, and now they're listening to something they've never heard before and brought back, gives them a new basis to learn to write songs on. And man, that is glory. That's what we want. We want more great songwriters, because when you write great songs, you make great music.
Which segues right into my next question, which is the Roots and Boots tour that you mentioned. Colin Ray and Sammy Kershaw. This has been going on for a number of years, and it's such a unique show because it's. I mean, the three of you are great entertainers, right? But y'all get on stage and you sing songs, but then you talk about your careers and some of the inside stories that we might not have heard before. And it really becomes a full entertainment experience. And yeah, I've seen it a couple of times and just absolutely enjoy it.
Well, Steve, you know, and I'm blessed to have this opportunity to work with a couple of guys out of my same flight, you know, when we first cranked off in the 90s. How glorious that is. You know, usually, even when we were on package shows or throughout our career, when we were all trying to be Elvis, man, we didn't have time to talk to each other or catch up. And now, man, you know, me and Sammy Collins they have to kind of get a pitchfork, hurt us on stage, because we're still talking about the kids and, you know, the house working on and the bus problems. And, you know, we're just three old guys talking about stuff three old guys talk about. So it's really a blessing. And then I get out there and I get the best seat in the house, just standing off the stage, watching two legends of country music do their hits. Man, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. It's been quite a year for you so far, and it's still early in the year. Living Legends of Aviation, you're out on tour. Roots and Boots is out. You're also doing tour dates with your full band. And you've got the new single out. What else is coming up this year for you?
Hey, there's a new album in the can. You know, we got more great music to come. I got to tell you, this is year 36, I believe. I think that's right. But man, I've never had this much fun. The past 4 or 5 years have really been fun because old Mommer Boy, Thea, affectionately known as Mommer Boy, is out there with me singing, and Tom's in the band, my youngest son. And so I'm living the family dream of having ones I love out there with me. I am living that dream. But I just feel like we've got so much more to give now because I'm re-energized. I was very happy with the semi-retired. Let's just do the hits, and, you know, we'll fade off into the. I'll start eventually rebuilding airplanes, and that's how I'll make my. Yeah. But you know, now I'm re-inspired, and I want to bring it back one more time. I just want everybody to remember the greatest days of country music, and that was the days of the 90s. And we are those guys, and we are those gals. And man, I think America feels the same way. They want to see us one more time. And boy, I can't think of anybody on my roster that says, "Nah, I think not." We're all coming back.
I agree. Looking forward to it, as always. Aaron, we appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule. You've got shows coming up this weekend. And so go have fun. And once the weather warms up there in Tennessee, make sure you get out there and exercise those airplanes because they've been in the hangar all winter.
Fly, buddy.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our show for tonight. And this conversation is a great reminder of the things we talk about on Warbird Tube every week, that aviation is more than just machines. There's the stories and the people who go with it. And thank you, Aaron, for bringing that point home to us tonight. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you like what you saw tonight, please share it with someone who you think would enjoy it. We'd appreciate that. And we talked about the single, American Sky. The official video is about to be released. You may have seen the lyric video, but Aaron says there's an even better video out there, and we will put the link in the comment section so you can go and see that. So make sure you look for that, for American Sky and the rest of the music coming from his new album, right? So for The rest of you, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And when you do, click that bell icon and you'll get notices when our new episodes are posted. Any thoughts or comments, something you'd like us to cover in the future, drop us a note, media@cafhq.org. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on CAF Warbird Tube. Take care.
CAF Warbird Tube is produced by the Commemorative Air Force and hosted by Steve Buss. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the Commemorative Air Force. To learn more about the CAF, explore upcoming episodes, or watch past shows, visit commemorativeairforce.org or warbirdtube.com. You can also watch our show on YouTube at CAF Media TV or listen wherever you get your podcasts by searching Warbird Tube. Thanks for tuning in, and let's keep them flying.